Welcome to the 5-Minute Prime Podcast. Quick, actionable tips to master personal finance and real estate investing. In just 5 minutes a day, we'll help you build wealth and achieve financial freedom. Hey, Prime investors, it's Martin Maxwell, and welcome back to the 5-Minute Prime Podcast. Today, we're talking about a critical piece of the housing puzzle, zoning. Yeah, I know, zoning regulations might sound about as exciting as watching paint dry, but trust me, this is huge. We've talked before about the affordability crisis and the need for more housing supply. Zoning reform is directly connected to both of those issues. It's about unlocking the potential to build more homes, more types of homes, and potentially make housing more affordable. But as always, it's not that simple. There's a political tug of war happening, and the results are very different depending on where you are. So let's dive into the zoning battles of 2025. Okay, quick zoning 101. Zoning laws are the rules that govern how land can be used. They dictate things like, can you build a single-family home, a duplex, an apartment building, or a commercial property? How tall can the building be? How much parking is required? What's the minimum lot size? For decades, many of these rules have favored single-family homes on large lots, effectively limiting the supply of housing and contributing to rising prices. Zoning reform is about changing those rules to allow for more density, more diverse housing types, and hopefully more affordability. But you guessed it, it's not happening uniformly across the country. We're seeing a real split in how different states and cities are approaching zoning reform in 2025. Some are leading the charge, while others are digging in their heels. In California, the Golden State continues to be a leader in zoning reform, building on previous laws that spurred the creation of accessory dwelling units, ADUs. Think about granny flats or backyard cottages. They added 15,000 ADUs in 2024 alone. New laws in 2025, like SB 1211 and SB 1077, are making it even easier to build ADUs, even on multifamily properties and in coastal areas. But it's not all smooth sailing. A 2024 court ruling against SB 9 in 5 cities shows there's still legal resistance to some of these changes. While in New York City, the City of Yes plan, passed in late 2024, is already having an impact. It's allowing for subtle but significant increases in density, things like adding a few extra stories to a building or converting existing structures into more apartments. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, this one's a big deal. In February 2025, Cambridge voted to eliminate single and two-family zoning citywide. They're now allowing 4-story multifamily homes in areas that were previously restricted. They're projecting this will create 3,600 new homes by 2040, including 660 affordable units. That's a major step. Now, in Texas, the Lone Star State is a mixed bag. Houston has a unique approach. It doesn't have traditional zoning laws. Back in 1998, they reduced minimum lot sizes, and that's led to a significant increase in housing supply. But other cities like Austin are facing legal battles as they try to increase density. There's a lot of pushback at the state level against local control over zoning, and this brings us to a key point: political tensions. We're seeing a real tug of war between the federal government under the current administration, which is pushing for deregulation, and many state and local governments, particularly in blue states, who are resisting that pressure. By March 2025, 12 states had preempted local zoning, but 20% of red states lagged due to local control pushes. So what does all this mean for you, the homeowner or renter? The impact of these zoning reforms varies depending on where you are and whether you own or rent. For homeowners, if you live in an area where zoning reforms are taking hold, you might have new opportunities to build an ADU or even convert your single-family home into a duplex or triplex. This could provide additional rental income or create housing for family members. In California, for example, some homeowners are seeing potential returns of up to 20% ROI on ADU construction. For renters, zoning reform, in theory, should lead to more housing options and potentially lower rents. More supply, especially of missing middle housing, duplexes, townhouses, small apartment buildings, can help ease the pressure on the rental market. We're seeing this in places like Houston, where rent growth is lower than the national average. For everyone, it's important to keep an eye on federal policies. The current administration's HUD could influence zoning through various programs and initiatives, but the details are still unclear, and there's likely to be continued political wrangling. As I mentioned, the political landscape is adding a layer of complexity to zoning reform. The current administration is pushing for deregulation, but many states and cities, particularly those with Democratic leadership, are resisting federal intervention. This creates a federal-local tug-of-war, as some have called it. This tension is playing out in courtrooms with legal challenges to zoning reforms in states like California and Texas. It's also influencing policy decisions at the state and local levels. It creates uncertainty and can slow down the implementation of reforms, even in areas where there's broad support for increasing housing supply. So, what's the bottom line? Zoning reform is a powerful tool for addressing the housing crisis, but it's not a magic bullet. It's a complex process with political, legal, and economic challenges. We're seeing significant progress in places like California, New York City, and Cambridge, but other areas are lagging behind. The success of these reforms will depend on a number of factors. For the first part, effective implementation, making sure the new rules are clear, streamlined, and actually lead to new housing construction. Additionally, sustained political will, overcoming resistance from NIMBY, not in my backyard groups, and navigating the complex political landscape. Lastly, market absorption, making sure there's enough demand to absorb the new housing that's created. Here's your challenge for today. I want you to research the zoning regulations in your area. Are there any proposed reforms? What's the political climate surrounding zoning? Are there opportunities for homeowners to add ADUs or other types of housing? Are there any local advocacy groups working on zoning reform that you could support? And as always, if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the 5-Minute Prime podcast, share it with your network, and leave us a review. You can find more resources and tools at reiprime.com. I'm Martin Maxwell. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead of the curve. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building your future.